Hello, everyone. This is Noah and John. We are from UrbanDigs. We are talking Manhattan. And John, I think we're getting to a new phase in this whole crisis here, Johnny.
I hope so. I would like to get past the acute, oh my God, there's a virus and everything is stopped phase.
Yeah, and I call that the destruction phase. I got a theory on this. You want to hear it?
I don't know if now's the time. No, of course I want to hear it, man. Come on, let's go.
Now is the time. My theory is that because of the nature of this government ordered shutdown, right? This cease of activity, the cease of action. And I'm talking to a lot of brokers, and I'm hearing that buyers want to take action. They want to buy.
Yeah.
But they need to see the place. And I guess who could blame them? So I think that we're going to have three phases of this. I think we're going to have phase one, which is destruction. Phase two, which is going to be the bottoming and normalizing phase. And then phase three is going to be the recovery. Okay. And I think the recovery is going to be more like a reverse check mark, John. When have you heard that term?
A reverse check mark.
Think of a check mark.
Are you talking about the shape of the recovery, like V versus U? Is that what you're referring to?
I think it's going to be almost like a half V. A half V. Take a check mark and reverse it. So we fell off the cliff. We had the V, the first part of the V, and I think we're going to bounce off the bottom and retrace about halfway, and then we're going to kind of lull around that area. We're not going to have a U. I think it's going to kind of bounce quickly because of the veracity of the shock. I think it's going to, you're going to see, because there's so few deals were signed. It's so illiquid. There is no market. And the height of fear really was end of March, early April. So those deals were signed in mid-April and late April, et cetera. They're going to come out in, like we said, July, August, September. They're going to come out in a couple months, probably starting in 4, 5, 6 weeks, you'll start seeing them, but not in bulk for another couple of months. And you're going to see the price shock. You're going to see the price shock. So I think the price shock, which already happened because, those deals were already signed and we're waiting for them to close, I think is going to kind of resemble a reverse check mark, meaning we're going to have a big spike down. And then I think we're going to have a kind of a quick bounce back to that, but it's going to be only like a 50 or 40% retracement of the original fall.
No, that's an interesting thought. If that could happen, that would not be so bad, I think.
Yeah. And when I think phase one, phase two, phase three, so we have destruction. I think we've already kind of had that. I think we've had phase one. I think we're entering a new phase. I think we're entering the normalization bottoming. And let me just show you one chart, and then we're going to get to Stacey Froelich. We got Stacey Froelich here, who is a deal machine, and she's gonna talk. I've given her some liquid truth serum, so she's gonna talk.
That's right.
So here's my three-year chart on supply, and this is what I'm talking about. So like real time, we only have three metrics real time, John, to look at. We have supply, we have pending sales, and I guess we have days on market, and we have off market. Right, but I'm not looking at days on market because it's suspended. So I'm looking at supply, pending sales, and off market. Right, of those three, supply and pending sales are the most interesting to me. And when I look at this and I see, all right, here's the destruction at phase one. This was when all the sellers were just saying, all right, forget it. And we're starting to kind of bottom and normalize right here. Now, if I look at pending sales, okay, it's a different story. It's a different story. And I think that's still in tank mode, right? And you can see it on this chart. So this has not started the bottom. We don't know where the bottom is of that yet. So I think this is going to be defined by three different phases. I think we're kind of in that process of ending phase one and going into phase two. Phase three will be the recovery of these metrics, pending sales and activity of new supply. You'll see supply first. And then phase four, I guess, will be the big reveal. The big reveal will be in July, August, and September, and that's going to show us pricing. So with that said, John, I'm going to shut up. Let's go right to Stacey Froelich. Stacey of Compass, she's a multi-decade veteran. And Stacey, I've known you a long time, Stacey.
Yes.
Since hair, right? You've known Noah with hair, correct?
Maybe.
Afro
we
Noah.
should dig that photo up.
Right. Well, anyway, we know each other going way back to 2006, 2007, 2008, back at the Old City Habitats office with the great Gordon Golub. Thank you so much for joining us. Please tell everyone about yourself and then go right into it. What are you seeing on the streets right now?
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I think you guys have done an amazing job during this pandemic, being leaders of the industry, and I'm really humbled that you asked me to join your show. I am Stacey Froelich. I run the Stacey Froelich team. I started in the industry in 2001 with the great Gordon Gallup, and then went over to Corcoran, and then I have been at Compass. I was actually the very first uptown agent to join Compass back in September. It'll be 6 years. So
Nice.
I was considered crazy back then, and now a genius, which it's probably a little of both.
There's a little crazy in genius. So that's okay.
Yeah, both, right. But it's been a wonderful journey and ride. And this is, just another part of my career. I thought I had seen a lot of ups and downs before, 9/11, the Great Recession, so many other things. And this is obviously something brand new and unprecedented. So, we're fortunate that we have put 8 deals into contract during this corona over the last 8 weeks. Mm-hmm. 4 of which are buyer, 4 of which are seller. But I think it's important to note that every one of those buyers had seen the property pre-lockdown.
Okay. Gotcha. So you don't have any sight unseen COVID deals.
So we have had some of our buyers, like other buyers, try and take advantage of the uncertain times and put in low offers. I feel lower than, obviously lower than I anticipated. And I think it's also important to note that not one of those offers was accepted. So okay. I did a little number crunching, and the average negotiation that the buyers made, some of which were sight unseen, some of which they had seen the properties previous, was about 17% off the current asking price, and none of those sellers were interested in doing deals at that level.
Wow, this is, I got to pause for a second. John, this is awesome. This is awesome. So you're telling me of the buyers that you represent that bid and failed.
Yeah.
Their bid on average or on median?
This was an average of 17.72% off the current asking price.
Uh-huh.
And there's only one that we're actually still somewhat negotiating, and that one was 14% off. Mm-hmm. And I do think we can get a deal done, but that one might have been a little overpriced to begin with. And
for the most part, were you getting a response, or were you getting a no response from the sell side?
So everyone has responded. I think, the nice thing about it is that most of the brokers are professional and they know what's going on right now, and no one seems offended or, shocked in any way. I think everyone would like to try and work together to get deal done. And I think that's the beauty of our industry, especially right now. We're collaborating, we're trying to get deals done. So it wasn't no animosity, nothing along those lines. But the sellers are just going to wait. I think it depends on the motivation of the seller. And thankfully, none of these sellers were in financial duress, which would obviously change things. Right. But the reality is, we don't know what's going to happen with pricing. We can absolutely have our theories of what's going to happen, but no one really knows. So I'm telling my sellers, unless they really need to sell, don't sell under uncertain times and give it away, because you don't know what's going to happen. So if you can afford to hold on to it, then let's wait, because I always find in any market, uncertainty is the killer of all deals. And these are the most uncertain times I've ever lived through. So, it's not the best time to make lifelong decisions.
Right. And this especially goes to the role of agents today, which is that, if you have an uncertain market, you have a wide spread between the bid and the ask. When this uncertainty, like when the market comes to a standstill like this, listen, it's all about the bid. So the bids are necessarily, they're going to drop away. They're going to be a certain level below. And it becomes a point of, well, what are the individual sellers thinking? And that's where the agent has to bridge the gap. It's either, look, it makes sense for you to sell because you're under duress, or, you know what, hold on. And it becomes a factor of advice for every single seller out there. And I'm just curious, in terms of the sellers you're dealing with, are most of them thinking like, now I just want to wait? Or are there some thinking, you know what, I'd like to engage these buyers?
So We have 10 active sales listing on the market. We have continued to keep them on the market, mostly because of days on the market being frozen.
Yeah.
I will say, Noah was saying that in the beginning that he's seen like 3 different phases. I agree that we're in a new phase, because over the last week or two, I've received much more inquiries on our exclusive listings than I did before, which I'm excited about, I'm encouraged about. But it's funny because it's the same thing. People are like, oh, send us a video tour, which we've done. Like, I went out, I bought the Matterport camera. I've done 3D tours on every property that's vacant. And they say, oh, send us the tour and we'll make an offer. And then they say, ultimately, we really have to see the property, right? And it's like, yes, of course, but I can't show you the property. So whereas I think buyers like have this feeling like they want to take advantage of this uncertainty and get a good deal. In the end, if they're buying a primary residence, they need to see the property. We just put on a rental, which that's one pivot I've made. I'm taking rentals, which, I'm mostly a sales agent, but I didn't know what to expect. And I was very clear with it's a co-op rental, which is always harder. And I said, I don't know what to expect. Let's put it on as a coming soon. If we can get a video tour, then we'll activate it. Let's just kind of use the coming soon stage to just test the market. We were so inundated with inquiries. Everyone wanted the video tour. So we got the video tour. We activated it first day, full price, sight unseen application. So renters are willing to see to go forward sight unseen. My guess is investors might be too, if they can get a certain deal. But I still think that a primary resident buyer needs to walk the property.
Yeah, and I think that's, and just sorry to interrupt Noah, I think that's where we are. I think Noah illustrated it beautifully earlier, which is that, look, sellers can get ready for an active season by simply putting their listing on the market. It doesn't have to have pictures. It doesn't have to have a floor plan. It just has an address and like a coming soon logo, something. It's on the market. It's good to go. And then it's a question of the buyers get that in their updates and be like, oh, this seems like the neighborhood I like, the price I like, the size I need. Let me go see this one as soon as I can. So my guess is there is some pent up demand that we're going to see. And I to go back to Noah's reverse check mark, I think it remains to be seen what those buyers are thinking. But no, it's very interesting. And I'm curious, just to go back to your deals pending that were pre-COVID, how are those buyers holding up? Is anybody trying to renegotiate or trying to break those deals, or are they still in contract? So pre-COVID, we had many deals in contract already. Not one of those deals have renegotiated. Nobody has pulled out. Now, some of the buyers, no matter what side I'm on, are not wanting to close. They want to wait because they can't move in or they can't renovate. So they're trying to delay the actual closing, which I totally understand. Some sellers are more amicable about that than others, which I understand. Both, you want to sell, you want to close, you want to get your money in, and I understand that. But nobody has renegotiated. Now, the 8 deals that we have in contract, now at the beginning that were accepted offers, 3 out of those deals were negotiated previously. They all need renegotiated. But not very much, 3.5% from the last accepted offer price. And we put a few new buyers into contract that negotiated during COVID. So we negotiated a little more than we probably would have, but they'd seen the property previously. But our total negotiation of all 8 deals from asking price to contract price is only 11.5%. Oh no, sorry, that's wrong. It's 3.67%. It was from asking price to contract price, and that's skewed by one new development deal that negotiated 11.5%.
Right.
So it's really less than that.
Right. So I think, at the end of the day, and I pulled up a search here, John, and I'm seeing since the shutdown order, we've got 409 contracts signed since this whole thing. Stacey's got 8 of them.
I get you.
Um,
We have 2 accepted offers right now that we're hoping to get signed.
all right, so that was my next question, Stacey. So,
Yeah.
so I am of the mindset that within this period of dislocation, we're going to have smaller windows, smaller periods of time, like say a week or whatever, where the dislocation is more severe. Like for example, I think in mid-March and approaching March 20th and the lows in the stock market of March 23rd, and again, the no showing order that came on March 20th, approaching that time, I think was much more fearful.
Yes, and let me jump in and say we did have 5 deals fall apart in that week.
Okay, and that's when that. So 2 things happen during these extreme stress dislocation windows, which I don't think we're in right now. I think we're dislocated. It's not as extreme as it was in March. 2 things happen: deals fall apart, and number 2 is sellers are out of fear and forced liquidation are more likely to hit a gap down bid, right? So those 2 things are in play, right? And they're competing forces, right? At the end of the day, barely any deals happen. You know, if you look at that period, I'm sure maybe only 80 deals got signed. If you look in the last week, so now here's where we are now. So if I look in the last week, right, of contracts signed, we're at like 47.
So it's going up.
So it's going up a little bit. I mean, I think we got down to a low of 40 or so last week. I'm looking at this on a weekly trend, but it's still very, 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 very low, right? And of these deals, how many are residual legacy deals like you've described, had some level of element, going on before COVID, or how many are sight unseen types of deals?
Yeah, I think there's going to be very few sight unseen purchases. It's just, even the few that we've done with FaceTime, like where the owner is there and doing the FaceTime tour, you just can't. You can't buy a property like that, no matter how much we've tried.
But it's funny because if you go, it's funny because if you go back to 2013, 2014, you had new developments on paper, people buying them left and right, sight unseen. Sounds great. Sign me up.
Yeah, well, yeah. In euphoric times, the herd-like mentality of fear of missing out and urgency. There's a high level of urgency during that period of time, 2013, 14, and into 15, especially in the new development sector and in the luxury sector, which I think peaked, I would say, late 2014.
Yeah, it's a question of, can you see around the corner? In 2013, 14, look, you feel like you're going to get this property in 2 years and it's going to be already worth, 15, 20% more. And now you can't, if you buy, it's like, well, what's it going to be worth in a year?
Well, we're just on the opposite sides of the spectrum. We're on the deflationary
Exactly.
side of the spectrum now, and we were on the inflationary side of the spectrum on the other side to the extreme.
Because I also think with new development, people were more willing to do that because they weren't seeing like the things that the sellers have done to their properties, right? Like,
right.
really do need, if they're brand new, that you don't have to look out for certain things, where if they're a little lived in, that you have to see. You have to see the crack in the tile and the fact that the tub needs reglazing and all that.
Right. Hey, Stacey, when I think of sellers and I think of nervous sellers, how many listings you got now, approximately? I know I didn't ask you that beforehand,
We
so I don't
have
know.
10 active listings right now, but we have 25 exclusive properties that we were planning as a team to most likely put on the market.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the people who I think are the most nervous, the people who really made their plans and we were starting to stage and paint and do the floors and prep for sale. And now those people are really on hold. And those people I've been really hand-holding through this process and trying to keep, I talk to them every Monday with an email, with data, with what I'm seeing, what we're seeing from your stats, from other markets that have opened, really trying to keep everyone calm and realize that, in time, we will get them where they want to be.
Yeah. Could I ask you kind of put you on the spot here for a second? You're doing business, which is fantastic. And even in this crazy slow market, but I'd love to, if you could sketch for us, and I guarantee there's not a one size fits all, but just a profile of what a buyer today looks like with all the work from home stuff and the flight to the suburbs, all that talk. What does a buyer look like today? What are they looking for? And on the sell side, are these people what do they look like? Are they people who are leaving the city because of this, or are they people who are just sort of transitioning from a 2-bedroom to a 3-bedroom? I'd love to hear some thoughts on what the profile of each of these people look like.
Right. Well, I do think that one part of where I'm lucky in my business is I work with a lot of families who probably were always planning on moving to the burbs in the future, but a lot of them have upped their timeline. And, that's so sad to me, because I'm getting so many calls from past clients about wanting to leave the city. And I'm on like a I love New York City tour, but of course I listen and I hear and I want to help them accomplish their goals. I do remind them that this is a global pandemic and that it's affecting everywhere, and that if you're quarantined here, you're also quarantined in the burbs, and you have fewer food options there. But so a lot of my clients are those people, sellers who are moving to the suburbs. So that's a lot of my sellers, not all, but a lot, or have been renting their apartment and it's time, co-op time frame is up. And a lot of my buyers who are buying now, need to be in the city for some reason, like, or, unfortunately divorce situations, that kind of thing, or just wanting to get a bigger space. And after this, a lot of people might realize that they need bigger space, or they need outdoor space, or they need a home office, or things like that they now realize that they need.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would just assume that today's buyer right now is one of your, high risk, they love kind of bidding in distressed markets, fear of missing out, opportunistic type of characteristic kind of buyers. I'm hearing a lot of people.
A few buyers who are already in contract to sell other properties prior to this, and they need to find a home. Like they need to. So that's one. And then I have a couple of families who are solidified in their schools. Like they're not moving their kids. So they're the ones that are like, if I can get a bigger space right now in this environment, I'll make a low bid and I'll do my best to get as big a space as I can for my family and take advantage of the situation.
Right. Yeah. And listen, I think there's just a lot of buyers just waiting to view property. Like you said, I think they're just waiting to view property. That's the pent up.
Yeah.
We can't measure it. I mean, we say pent up, usually, when the markets are functioning, I hate that word because I always think the market is what the market is at all times, and it's changing and we're trying to track it. But now is not normal times because we're shut down. So we really do have pent up, and there are buyers that over the last two months have wanted to play in this game, but they just live by one cardinal rule, and that is I would like to see the property, and they have every right.
I really blame them for that. My fear is that we go back a little to like the beginning of 2019, which was actually, one of the most challenging to me environments to sell in and to represent sellers in, because I never held property as long as I did back then. Like, 6 months exclusives for the first time weren't enough. And, it was very challenging to find a number that worked for both people, buyer and seller.
Yeah.
Sellers were really thinking that their properties were worth something, and the buyers thought it was a totally different number, and there was so much negotiation, and by the time we made a deal, everyone was pissed off, right? So nobody was happy, and it was a really challenging market. And I kind of feel like in the fall we're going to get back to that, where it's just going to be a lot of negotiation. Some deals just won't get done and some will, and buyers will think they didn't do as well and sellers will think they gave it away.
Yeah.
And then hopefully by 2021 the market will really start moving again.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about is the lagging nature of sales and the misunderstanding that sales represent what's going on in the market today, and it doesn't. If you look at sales coming in, and you look at 1 week sales, and you look at those sales, and you look at when they were signed into contract, first off, they're not even coming in. So Acris is not filing. That's number one. All right. There's probably a whole bunch of sales that need to come in. They're not. Secondly, you look at them, we're back in like December, January, early February. That's where we are in terms of timelines for sales coming in today. So we're really 4 months behind or so. So you got to wait. And I'm worried that the real-time market is going to be showing a retracement of activity. And we're going to start to see things come back. Of course, this is assuming that we could see property by then, by August and September. But by August and September, when the sales come in, I'm worried, what are the headlines going to show and what are buyers going to think? So those are two things I'm a little concerned about. But listen, we're running out of time, Stacey. I want to get one last question, very important for agents out there. what kind of tips, like how do you set your day up in this environment? How did you set your team up in this environment? Or what could you tell agents that are trying to up this game, up their game right now in the craziest of times? I think it's the best time to change. Any advice for them?
I mean, absolutely. And listen, this time is not good for anyone, but we have really stepped up our game. And so I have a few goals, and I've communicated them on a daily basis to my team. And, you know, right now my goal is to over communicate. So I think I'm communicating 3 times more with my past clients, and those are clients that are not looking to buy or sell or rent right now. Those are people who own their properties and they're nervous. So I want them to know that I'm here and I'm updating them, and they can call me and I'm their support. Mm-hmm. Then there's our current clients who are either in contract or actively looking, and I, you know, need to hold their hands through this and let them know it's okay to do nothing. And then there's our future clients who really had a plan that is not happening because we have to wait. So those are my 3 buckets of people who I'm communicating to very often. I'm not including my weekly newsletter in that. This is like communicating to these people with targeted messages. I'm trying to share data. I'm trying to share personal feelings and be a little vulnerable and transparent. I'm trying to also let them know I'm supported, and then share my experience as an agent who have been through some harder times, right? So, and seen market. So it's an approach, a data approach and support and all that together. We've also rolled out some new technology and like the video tour, which I think is here to stay. And I think will be everyone's first step in going to physically see a property. We've also like completely upped our social media marketing 3 times more than we were before, and getting messages, those same messages out there. And, you know, and I'm letting my team know that they need to let their clients know, and their sphere and the people around them, whether they're buying or selling or renting or nothing, that we're accessible to them. So that's the goal. I mean, we're working every day. I sit at my computer from 9 to 4 every day, and my goal is to accomplish at least 1 or 2 things every single day for my clients, for my team, and for myself.
Yeah, that is amazing, and that is just a bunch of nuggets of information. And let me just tell you, it's not easy to work from home and be disciplined. And I've been an entrepreneur my entire life, ever since out of college. I was a trader, and then started hotspothaven.com, and then started UrbanDigs. And I've always worked from home, and I always find the hardest thing to do is the discipline to do the work, because you're so tempted to do something else. And I'm not telling you not to go enjoy yourself and go for walks and do that, but you got to find the time for work, and you got to do it. So I love how you said, I am working from 9 to 4, I am working. And that's what you got to do. Thanks, Stacey Froelich. You have been amazing. Thank you so much for joining us from Compass. This is Noah and John. We are from UrbanDigs. We are talking Manhattan, and we're going to catch you next time. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.